everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 11 of Blue Lock, and my jerseys are in the wash, so no jersey this week. But that does not mean I'm not super excited about this episode, because yeah, it is down to the wire. It's 4-4, and Team Z has got to win this episode if they're gonna go on to the next selection. Otherwise, it's just gonna be Kagami, or Kogami, or Kunigami. I have Kagami from Kroger's Basketball, I have Kogami from Psychopaths that I'm watching now, and then we have Kunigami from this. So there's a lot of Kagamis to go around. But yes, yeah, if they don't win this game, it's literally going to be Kunigami going into the next round. And do we really think the story is just going to focus on Kunigami? No, I don't think so. So, we know that Team Z has to pull it out somehow. The how is the part that's like, how are we going to do it? Because last episode, again, one thing I love about Blue Lock is that you can go into an episode thinking that something's going to happen and then it completely flips the script. Or you can think that you know how it's going down and it is going to go down that way, but it's going to happen in a way you weren't quite expecting. And that's what I really love about this series. I'm like, yes, give me all the unexpected twists. Give me all the character development. I'm here for it, right? And I don't have a lot of comments for this episode because I left a lot of my notes at work. Long story short, I had notes about this episode. I left them at work. Yay. So I'll have a lot for episode 12 next week, but I do want to make a comment about Pink Tea over in the Discord. Had talked about this really cool idea because I love Nagi's sort of like cosmic energy that comes off of them. It's not blue like Isagi, it's not pink like Chigiri, it's not yellow like Bachra, it's just like cosmic colors. And Pink Tea had a really cool reason for that, saying that Nagi's talent has endless potential. So it's like the space that he's exploring. He's an astronaut, basically. I love that. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I like that reasoning behind it. It's thematic. It ties in. It's great. I just love it. I love Nagi and Rayo's like ace spectrum color scheme going on. It works perfectly. And if you told me that Nagi was asexual, absolutely. Rayo being like demisexual, for him being like, I will do anything that you want me to. I'm all for this ship. Like Nagi and Rayo at this point are like an OTP. They just are. Which has me very curious to see what the show is going to do with them coming up. Because I think that if in this second selection, if we split everybody, I think they're going to split everybody up. I think Ego's going to be like, oh, well, it's great you bonded with this group of people. Good job. You guys made it. Now we're going to split you all up and reorganize you. And I think Ego's going to do that. And I think that Rayo and Nagi are going to get split up and be on opposite teams, which would be really, really freaking cool. And so we'll see if that ends up happening. I could be wrong. I've been wrong many a time. But I'm super excited for this episode. I think we only got like literally 3 minutes left. I think this whole episode is going to focus on those 3 minutes, but we could be wrong. We could see. But yeah, so before we get started though, I want to give a very quick shout out over to Patreon, to our philanthropy tier, to thank not only patrons for supporting me and helping me to have this channel and talk with you all about anime and manga, but also to these lovelies that donate a little bit extra each month to help me have the streaming service that houses these reactions, as well as talk about these shows. So a special shout out over to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Ashy Gots No Bitches, to Anna, to Be Happy, to Brian, to Dana, to Destiny Marie, to Eric, to Edgar, to Kiri, to Loisiji, to Matthew Palfiniere, to Nameless Monster, to Sunspots, to Shimoyama, to Trails, to Translucent Men, to Tyrone, to Zachiel, and to Lyndon. Thank you all so much for your support. I really appreciate it. All of my love. So yeah, my dogs have done nothing all day, and now that I've sat down to record this, they suddenly decide that I need to throw this. So how about that? But yeah, I'm really excited, y'all. I hope y'all are too. We're not going to waste any more time. I got my coffee here. I'm ready to go this morning. Let's get this party started. We're going to start episode 11. Oh, I always forget every single time when I get really excited for a Blue Lock episode. I forget every time. I'm just like, I get so excited for a Blue Lock episode and I'm like, let's do it. And then you know what happens? I forget to talk about my other favorite sports anime. So this will, take place after the episode, so the theme of this ad may reflect upon the episode as a whole, but the only way to find out is to take a look. Hello, dear friends. It's Romania Black, and when I'm not watching Blue Lock and seeing our team advance to the next stage of the competition, you know what I'm doing or thinking about? Probably Ace of the Diamond. Yes, because just like Isagi and Blue Lock, we have a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed protagonist who kind of can get down on himself and think that he's not as good as he truly is, and can kind of be very humbled by his own abilities. But when the going gets tough and it's time for him to move on to the next stage, our boy Sawamura, he works really hard and proves to himself that he is just as good as the others around him believe him to be as well. So when you're done watching Blue Lock and seeing Isagi realize his true potential, you can go watch another series where the main protagonist reveals their true potential as well. Enjoy Ace of the Diamond today. Now, back to the reaction. I swear, every time I get super hyped about an episode of Blue Lock, and you know what I do? I forget to do the Ace of the Diamond ad. So that's where we're at. But yeah, now that we've done that obligatory ad out of the way, we are going to dive into episode 11 of Blue Lock. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Hey! This is a great episode. I'm glad that we got the game over, got it done, got that goal. That was an amazingly exciting, action-packed, thrilling first half of the episode, and then we all just kind of let it calm down before Ego came out and said, hey, remember all these things I've been telling you? I'm kind of an unreliable narrator. And I'm like, ah! So, wow. Well, that shortens the series. Quite a bit. You know what? I'm actually kind of glad that it turned out that it was just this building of 25 individuals. I'm glad that, well, not 25 individuals. I'm glad it was just these 5 teams that it's been the entire time. So basically, were a lot of these characters just filler characters that did Ego just hire a bunch of randos to come in to the main building when they started out and was like, hey, you guys just need to come up and act for a day. I'll give you like some SAG scale funds, and then you guys can be on your merry way. Or was it just the building was filled with just the 5 teams worth of individuals, like the 200 and whatever, and then it was all just narrowed down from there, and these guys are 18 and didn't realize it, I'm actually fine with that for a lot of reasons. The first reason, obviously, being if you had 5 buildings with 5 teams, this manga could go on endlessly. And I like that, unlike some sports anime, which my favorite sports anime is an insanely long-running one, so I can't say anything, but I know like Hajime no Ippo, the boxing one's like thousands of chapters, which I don't know anything about that manga. Maybe there's lots of different competitions, things like that. My point is that I could see this anime getting really stale if we had to go through each building, each thing, whatever, because you can only do so much, right, without it getting repetitive, right? So I am glad on the one front that the mangaka was like, psych, we're not actually going to go through 5 buildings of the same old shit. We're going to go and do new things, which I'm like, good. That I'm totally fine with, right? And the idea, I think it also would kind of get a little bit sort of not OP or not cliche, but if our main team somehow beat out 5 other buildings worth of players, I'd be like, is this really the mangaka, putting a little bit of favoritism there, or was it their actual skill? Because only until this last game did Team Z actually come together as a cohesive unit. They were kind of scatterbrained for the most part up until this final game when it was like do or die, and they chose to do the damn thing. So I am glad the Ego's like, yeah, psych, we're not doing 5 buildings worth. It's all just been you all. But I brought Whiteboard-kun out. They've returned. He has come back. Because I want to break down kind of what Ego was talking about, and also being like, oh, you're just now noticing this one guy. I feel like there's some other guys added into the mix that weren't there originally. And again, our boys are 18, and I'm like, did you all not get the memo? So, interesting. Interesting indeed. But yeah, we'll talk about this. We will talk about this and go from there. So anyway, let's break down this episode and dive into it. Man, Oh, this first episode, let me tell you. This first half of the episode, it was like a nail biter. I love that as Isagi's running away from the goal, Geen is like upside down. You know what Geen, I realize Geen is? Have you ever seen Mean Girls? Do you know the blonde in Mean Girls? She's like, oh, what? Like butter's a carb? Like, what? Like she's kind of like the ditzy stereotypical blonde character. Geen is kind of that. Geen is kind of like the ditzy character of the group, but is also really reliable. Like, Geen just reminds me of the blonde from Mean Girls, and not Regina George, the girl in Regina George's posse. So, of course, Isagi lining up with the goal, and he's like, I smell a goal with my three right-hand men, which is Batra, Kunigami, and Shigiri. Of course, Isagi's like, my three main harem members are here to back me up no matter what. I'm like, of course, this line of three smells like a goal. I kept saying he was referring to Tanjiro, who's from Demon Slayer, whose ability is tied to their sense of smell. It's great. With my eyes and the power of foresight. Right? I mean, Isagi's basically a hoot hoot. So Isagi, let's talk about Isagi. Isagi has foresight, which is tied to their spatial awareness and their ability to quote unquote smell a goal. I like that, to smell a goal using that spatial awareness. But I like that if all else fails, their final, like their trump card move, we'll put that up here, is the idea that they have a direct shot ability. I really love that. I love the idea that Isagi is not just a one-trick pony, and the idea that they have spatial awareness, they have the ability to kind of see where the pieces are going to all align, but if all else fails and there are no other options available to him to go with, I like this idea that this is tying to the idea of them being a striker that is effective. Right? Because this all kind of ties to the idea of Isagi's self-esteem. Because in all of these other iterations, Isagi has had all this self-doubt and being like, oh, I can't do it. I'm not good enough. I'm insufficient. I'm not good without my other players. I need them to be able to do something. And I was wondering, I was like, well, the whole point of Blue Lock is that you are enough. You are good on your own. You don't need other players. So I was waiting for Isagi to kind of like get to a point where they would realize they could do something without their other players, and this was the moment of them getting that self-esteem and that confidence to be like, no, I've got an ability that others don't have where I can target and find the right places for a goal, and I can see that if I'm not going to be the right person to do it, I can pass it to the person that is. But if all else fails, I do have a chance to do something on my own. It kind of makes Isagi seem a little bit OP, but again, Isagi is not, like, there are things that Isagi can't necessarily do as well as other people on the field. So I like that this is tapping into Isagi's potential. They have the potential to be an absolute monster, but they're still kind of not quite sure of themselves. So this next second selection, I feel like it being the idea, the second selection is all about you as the individual. You as the individual. The first selection was proving that you can work on a team. Proving your team dynamic. Yes. You as a team of individuals can make a difference. You all can score the goals. You know how to work as a team. You've figured out how to make a goal out of nothing. Congrats. Now, this second selection is being like, okay, you as an individual, are you enough to be Japan's next top striker? Can you do that? And that's what the second selection is about. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like that. I'm all about it. I like the idea that we've proven that you can work with others. You know how to create a goal. Great. Now, what do you as an individual? Are you strong enough as an individual to make it further? And I think that's kind of where Baro and Nico and Wanima, is that the one twin that made it? We'll talk about that. I feel like that's where they will kind of have an advantage in the second selection, because while it seemed like they were at a disadvantage in the first selection because their team was maybe not as strong as they were, I feel like they will have kind of an advantage going into the second round because they are driven as individuals already. So they already kind of have that esteem and that self-esteem and that drive that they needed to get to this point. I feel like Barrow's probably going to like waylay and like sail past the second selection. Barrow is probably going to be like, yes, I know I'm king. I know I'm good enough. Let me go on through. And I think that they'll be fine. And I feel like Nico kind of has an advantage because they're like, well, I knew I had to make it here. I couldn't let Osaka take my place, which is crazy, right? That Osaka didn't make it and Nico did. I think the one that might struggle is Wanema, is the one twin, because what I instantly think of is, if we're going to talk about RuPaul's Drag Race, I think of season 15 with Sugar and Spice. Sugar and Spice were like the first set of twins to go on the show, and they decided to compete individually. And spoiler, I won't tell you which one, but one twin gets sent home first before the other. And it's like this big ordeal. And for the next several episodes, the one twin that is remaining struggles because they've always been with their sibling. They've always been a packaged deal. And so for the first time, they're split apart and they're like, I don't know what to do without my brother here. How do I go on? And so I feel like Wanema is going to struggle a lot because they're used to having their twin. And they're used to having that support system of their twin backing them up. And so I think they're going to struggle. I think they're going to have to figure out that they have the opportunity to go further and be pro even if their brother doesn't. And so maybe that will work, or maybe they'll succumb to it and fall because they can't accept the fact that they're going to be successful and their twin not. I don't know. I feel like Wanema's going to struggle. Of the three that came out of the first selection, Barrow and Nico, I think, are going to be fine. I think that they're actually going to be pretty decent with all of this. And now I think it's going to be like I could tell, oh my gosh, Inagashi, the monk, the moment they were like, you're doing this on your own, he was like, oh no. Because he's always been the bottom of the barrel on the team, so he's going to struggle. I don't know. I'm going to be curious to see how Ego's kind of an unreliable narrator. We can't really trust Ego. So is Ego telling the truth when he tells us how the selection is going to go? I don't know. I'm going to be curious to see how Ego decides to narrow the field down once we've gotten to this point. I'm going to be very, very, very curious to see how Ego decides to narrow the field, because that seems like it's going to be interesting, right? I'm so curious to see what we end up getting with that. So I don't know. I don't know what we're going to end up getting out of that. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, Isagi's like, I'm not going to let them get the goal even if it kills me. And dear God, there were a lot of moments where they were just like, we got this, we're going to win. And I'm like, Blue Lock, quit saying these things. At this point, anytime they say they're going to win, I'm like, well, somebody's going to come in and try to stop them. And sure enough, I also like that there's a little bit of foreshadowing throughout this where you can see Raichi in the background. Raichi proven his salt, right? Just getting in there and saving the ball. Like, Raichi MVP this episode. Good for him. And then, yeah, I liked it. And I like the idea of Chigiri. Isagi's like, we're going to use those legs of yours. And Chigiri not being worried about whether his leg's going to hurt or not. Definitely a JoJo pose as Chigiri is running towards the goal. Also, one member of Team V that has like the monk-like strand of the headband going across them. They look like a Pokemon trainer. I'm just saying. And then, yep, Chigiri passing the ball back over to Isagi, moving on up. And I like that Chigiri realizes that Isagi kind of used him as bait. As Chigiri thought they were going to accelerate and then be used, but it was like, oh no, you were just using me as bait, okay? It was very much a Kuroko's basketball move, because there's been a few times where Kuroko like led the players to think that he was going to make a certain pass and then he didn't, to not only catch the other team off guard, but even their own teammates. It felt very much like one of those moments, which I really liked. And then Asagi's like, this is how I imagined it. This is exactly how it's going to go. And so then we come back to Cone. Cone is interesting in this. I like the resolution we get with Cone by the end of the episode. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But I like Cone just saying, again, like we talked about last episode, the idea that Cone did not want to lose. And this was just the response that their body had in that moment. And I like Cone cheering him on. That was nice. I was like, good on you, Cone. You're starting to come around. Good. It's a shame that nobody's paying attention to you in this moment. But then, yes, everyone... Isagi's getting ready to go, but then Zantetsu. I like that things don't go off without a hitch. I like Zantetsu kind of comes in. The guy that number 8 that looked like Bokuto on Team V's team, he was a bit of an eyesore this episode. And then Raichi's like, don't count me out. I love Ryo is like, how much stamina does this guy have? And Raichi's like, it's sexy soccer time. I can go all night. Do I kind of ship Raichi and Kon after this episode? Maybe. My shipper goggles were on during that moment. I was like, okay, all right. And then Bachara. Bachara getting that damn ball. And I love that Isagi knew that Bachara was going to send him the ball because Bachara is the leader of the harem. Isagi was like, oh, Bachara's going to pass to me. Because of course he is. That's that little bit of egoist coming out where Isagi's like, Bachara's going to know that I'm our best chance at a goal. Of course he's going to send it my way. Love it. And then, of course, Nagi's not going to let him go down without a fight. Love that. What is this monster doing here? And Nagi's like, you're the most dangerous on the field, so I've got to go after you. I like that it's setting up this rivalry between Nagi and Isagi, setting up this really cool rivalry. And it's not like they hate each other. They just both recognize each other's strengths. I like that. It's a healthy rivalry. I'm digging it. I'm all for it. But yeah, what do? And then we go back to what's been going on with Isagi's character since episode 1. Where Isagi, back during the game that he originally played, Isagi was doubting himself. And he was wondering, well, who do I pass to? What do I do? I can't win. And he was starting to get down on himself and falling into this pit of despair, thinking there was no way for him to win. And then what does he do? Nah. He's like, wait a minute. He's like, I've scored goals this whole time. Like, I don't need to pass to anybody. And I love the idea that the puzzle breaking away is the idea of Isagi breaking away from this mentality that he's been in the entire series so far. And Bachara's just out to the side going, that's right, bitch. Talk to your inner monster. It's not that bad of a conversation, I promise. And we don't see the inner monster within Isagi in this moment, but we do see Isagi realize, I can take the goal. I don't need to pass to anybody else. And it's like, that's him as a striker not accepting his weapon, spatial awareness, and skill. The one missing puzzle piece is the direct shot that he has. And I love that it's kind of green. Like, the color of it is green, which is not exactly the color scheme that we would think of Isagi, but it's that not green with envy, but I love it. Also, I'm taking a screenshot because this pose that Isagi's in during it is, like, physics defying. It looks like he's cut in half, but he makes the goal. And then he's like, this is the moment I've awakened. I love it, you know? And the thing about it is that it's not Isagi being selfish necessarily in a bad way, but it's Isagi realizing that no, I have to be able to trust in my instincts, trust in myself, and know that I can do it if there's the chance and I can see it working, that having the esteem and confidence in myself to take the shot if it needs to happen. I love that. I love it. Almine from Kuroko's Basketball would be amazing at this game if he was good at soccer, because he's very much an egoist. So yeah, the final piece. Skip this intro. God, ego. Speaking of which. And then getting back to the end of the game. I love them all coming together, and I like that Ryo says, I lost? We've been defeated? And the thing about it is, Nagi wasn't ready to give up. Nagi was like, we got time. We can do it. And for a hot second, I was like, oh shit, do they have time? Can they do it? And then luckily the timer ran out. And they don't get any extra time in this. But I love that Nagi still has that look in his eyes. He's like, if we score 2 more goals, we can still go. The thing about it is, Team V was going to make it no matter what. But I love that they still have that drive to stay undefeated. I feel like Ryo and Nagi both took this moment as like a moment of self-reflection and that they could still go. And Nagi getting the gleam in his eyes, where his eyes have like the little light in them, where he doesn't look dead-eyed anymore. He has like this vision and motivation. Wonderful. Love it. Beautiful. And Ryo being like, that's my heartthrob. Love it for them. I'm excited to see Ryo and Zantetsu and Nagi in the next half of the season, for sure. Because next episode, we're halfway through the season. Crazy town, right? And then Kon being like, wow, they really did it. Points for Kunigami. Points for Kunigami for being like, hey, man, come on, we won as a team. You did help us win. Let's go. And I like that Raichi's like, hold on there, hero. I like Raichi's like, hold on, hero. Like, he's still a traitor. I ain't letting him off the hook. But for Raichi to have this moment where he like gets kind of soft and I love that it stops. I love that Bachira is taking every opportunity to be all over Isagi. He's like, yes, I am piggyback riding on Isagi because we won. Obviously, it's not because I'm attracted to Isagi and I want to take this moment to like be all up on him. No, we won. That's all. But yeah, I love that Raichi's like, now hold on. And Kone's like, you're right. I am a traitor. And then Raichi gets soft and he's like, but you know, it's like if you hadn't flattened Nagi, we wouldn't have won. And for a second, it's like you believe him where he's like, so yeah, come here, traitor. And at that moment, I was like, am I suddenly like shipping Raichi and Kone? Is this a thing? Is this a shippable moment bursting through my heart? And Kone's like, oh, yeah, man. And of course, then he punches him. It's so perfect. It's still a shippable moment. It's still great. He's like, I'm going to hate you for the rest of my life. I still ship them now. I ship Raichi and Kone now, for sure. Enemies to lovers. Let's do. He's like, we're even now. Do you hear, you piece of trash? You with me, guys? And it's like, and Isagi's like, wow, talk about self-centered. I just love that these guys have the most JoJo-esque, monster-esque, like almost a horror manga pose on the field. And then they get off the field and they're like sunshine, rainbows, unicorns. I'm like, what is this series? What is this? Like, Isagi goes from being the most terrifying thing alive to being like a little puffball of marshmallow fluff 2 seconds later. And so, yeah, Team Y and Team Z, Team V and Team Z progress. And then we see that Wanama got 6 goals, Nico got 4 goals, and Baro got 10 goals. And they were the top 3 scorers. So, from the second selection, we have Team V, Team Z, and that is 22 people. And then we have Baro, we have Wanama, and we have Nico. And supposedly that's what we thought would come up here to be +3 to equal 25. That's what we thought. But let's see where that ends up going to, shall we? These 25 players advanced to Building 5's Blue Lock second selection. And they're like, yay! Oh, I like that! You can see Naruhaya on top of Gein's shoulders, which is super cute. Becky with the good hair back there is just dancing around. Lemon's like, hell yeah. And so they actually get a bunch of decent food. I love that Gein gets on to Naruhaya for nibbling. I'm like, he's just eating a dumpling. How do you expect him to eat? And then they have all this butter and stuff on the table, but they don't even make it to eating. They just pass out before that happens. I like that Lemon is basically the adult of the room. Lemon's like, well, if Kone was the traitor and is no longer the adult, I have to be the adult. He's like, stop messing around and help us get stuff set out, which is Imamura and Inagashi playing. Bachira's always lounging. Bachira's like, could care less, always lounging, always taking a break. And then Isagi gets him to go help get the water together. And then I like that Isagi and Bachira are getting the water together with everybody. And he's like, I couldn't have done it without you. And it's like, he has the cutest little face. And Bachira's like, well, I mean, what are you talking about? I'm not the one that did something awesome. You're the one that did the final goal. And he's like, you learned something, didn't you? I like that Bachira and Isagi are like connecting on a spiritual, psychic level. He's like, you figured something out in that last match, didn't you? Didn't you? And he's like, oh, well, yes, I did. He's like, I understand where my weapon is and where my true talents lie. He's like, I figured it out, Bachira. Even if I predict a situation using spatial awareness, it gets canceled out if I control the ball before shooting. So he's like, I thought back to my other goals. And he's like, I just decided to take the shot. And he's like, I feel like I've turned it into a formula. I love that little grin on his face. It makes him look a lot older. He's like, I figured it out. And then we see, he's like, my time as Isagi Yoichi the striker begins now. And then Bachira like blinks like, oh. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to sound so full of myself. I like that Isagi is very self-aware. Right? Because in any other series, in any other sports anime series, you really have to make these characters kind of humble because they're so egoistical and they're so like, they kind of get selfish and self-centered in a good way that if they're not self-aware about it and acknowledge it, you could instantly think that they're arrogant or they might not be as likable of a character. But one thing I like about Isagi is he's constantly self-aware and he's like, oh, sorry. I was like, I don't want you to think that I'm full of myself, but I'm just, being how it is. And Bachira's like, no, be full of yourself. Like, you deserve it. That's how we're in a game where you have to be kind of self-centered to advance. Bachira's like, I'm glad you're being humble, but this is why we love you, Isagi. He's like, no, it's fine. He's like, I like that look on your face. It's egoistic. He's like, get our blood pumping even more, Isagi Yoichi the egoist. He's like, Isagi, you don't understand. I'm into that thing. He's like, you can be humble and that's really cute and all, but Bachira's like, look, I'm a bumblebee. I'd rather you be a tiger than a lamb. Let's be real. But I like it. I like that dynamic. I like that Bachira sees what he's going at, right? And he's like, same to you. And then Bachira's like, then don't just get my hand. I'm going to karate chop you in the head instead. I like that Bachira's always been kind of this character from the start. And it's just taken us this long to kind of warm up to Bachira and understand his character, but that's just how he is. And so it's super endearing, right? And then then we see the players leaving and cursing. The question is, how long has Nico been there? Has Nico been watching them flirt this entire time? And Nico's like, I don't get to flirt with any of my teammates. They're all gone. But I like that Nico just shows up like a stereotypical rival character to establish that him and Isagi are rivals now. And Isagi's kind of like, I like that Nico says screw you when it's like, you started the conversation, Nico. You're the one that brought it up. Why are you mad at Isagi? You're the one that brought this all up. Come on now. And Isagi's just like, right back at you, man. Like, you want to be my rival? You inspired me. What Isagi says is that he was inspired to the same degree that Nico was. And Nico's like, son of a bitch, he got me. Well, screw you. Like, that's all he can think of in the moment. I like Nico's character a lot. I'm honestly glad that he made it instead of Osaka, if I'm being honest. Because Osaka just seemed kind of like Baro diet. like Diet Baro. So I'm glad that that's the case. Also, I like that it's implied that Nico started thinking for himself, and instead of passing the ball, he took the shots for himself, which again is part of Blue Lock. So yeah, I like that moment, and I'm glad we get to see more of Nico. I like his eyes, his aquamarine eyes. I'm excited. And then Bachira's like, wow, Isagi, you're getting popular. You're getting more and more rivals. Your harem is growing. Then Bachira's like, Bachira can only say that because Bachira knows he's the president of the fan club. So he's like, oh yeah, we can have as many people in the harem as possible as long as we know who's on top of the ladder. So yeah, then they bring all the water bottles back. Everybody's asleep. I like that, of course, Becky with the good hair and Naruhaya are on top of each other. Gin was like in child's pose, passed out. Raichi just instantly passed out in the thing. Lemon got tired of babysitting, and Kon just passed out, and Kunigami tried to eat, and it didn't work. To fuel your Kunigami and Shigiri shipping, both of them were at the table together. Adorable. And Asagi's just like, look at us. So anyway, what I like about this is that we montage the physical conditioning. Ego and the mangaka are like, look, you guys didn't want to see us go through all of this step by step, so we're just going to have 10 days of physical training. That's a lot. That's an awful lot. But Ego's like, we're going to make sure you guys are in peak condition for this second selection. Just you wait. We always had a phrase. We're like, day 2, power through. Day 3, woe is me. Day 4, at the door. And we didn't have anything past that. So this is just these poor guys' physical conditioning. So also, I think that it's interesting that they don't get to kick the ball during this time. They're just strengthening their bodies, right? And I like the Ego's like, bitch, I do what I want. It's my blue lock. I make the rules. You guys just follow through. Don't get cocky. And even up until now, he's talking about them being at the bottom of the pile and that they have to condition. So you train until I say stop, you pieces of garbage. So where Ego gets all of this money, I don't know. I would like to think that Ego is like Rayo and that his family was really, really wealthy and he's just like spending their money on this random soccer experiment. I would hope that that's the case. Or he put his stocks in like some great things and like got some Tesla money. Who knows? But yeah, he's like, we're going to do state-of-the-art training instead. And so he's like, you have to wait until they've finished up. So physical conditioning day 1. We see them all on the treadmills. Be grateful that we're giving gangless, spineless nobodies like you training exercises. And I like that they're all the ultra core training menu. Like 1 hour and 2 sets. Like that's a lot of training, right? And then we have like weights. The stamina training that you idiots need. Sprints. You're the bottom of the bottom. And I like that we see them like eating. Batra is the only one that looks perfectly fine. Like Kunigami looks like he's dying. So does Isagi. So does Naruhaya. Batra's just like, wow, this is a lot of fun. Batra is going to be a monster to contend with at some point. Because what is still in the back of my mind throughout all of this is that at some point, they're all going to have to face each other. And Batra is going to be a problem. Right? Batra is going to be a hard one to handle. And so yeah, they just keep going, keep running, keep doing sprints. 8 more sprints. They just keep on going with it. Just nothing but sweat. Day 4, we see Chigiri running. And we see poor Imamura and Inagashi. They're just throwing up. And Lemon's like, right here in front of my soup and salad? Really? Day 5, Kunigami doing his planks. I tell you. And then we see them all day 6. Batra's still going. Day 7, day 8, day 9. We see the blue lock showers. And Isagi's just like, Isagi has like the Tatakai. Like just the in the shower motivation. Gotta keep going. And then day 10. Here we are. I like that we have just, I think it's Inagashi that's just like bottoms up, right? And then I'm glad that Ego doesn't check in on them while they're sleeping. For a second, I thought he was. And I was like, really? But they're like, nope. The first selection is now complete. Time for the second one. I like Gin with his hair down. It's fun. Those who have passed, put on your training gear and come to the central base area of your building immediately. Yep. And then what's interesting is that Raichi thinks that they all think that it's the other teams that are getting there, but nope. So he's like, if it'd taken a day longer, I would have trashed the whole damn place. Oh my God, Raichi. And so they all think that they're going up against these higher ranked players, but nope. What's so great about being higher ranked doing? I like that we go to Isagi and he's like, I get to touch the ball again. Like, right. Isagi and Shoyo Hinata could both compete for who has the most crazed ball insane looks, like ball happy looks of sports anime, because yeah, Shoyo and Isagi both get that kind of creepy stare on their face, and I love it. Love it. So yeah, so they all show up in the room for the second selection. We're gonna win. Let's go, guys. I like Gin's trying to look all tough there. Batra just looks like a little bumblebee bouncing around. And Isagi's like, I'm not scared at all. I'm excited to try out my skills. Show me your moves. So then they show up. And guess what? There are 5 teams. There's 5 teams there. About that. Right? Are there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? Because how many players are here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. There's 25, right? They think that it's all, that's going to be, you would think the 25 players from each building, correct? And we see these players from other buildings that look like, yeah, they're from the other buildings. Okay. Wait, don't they look kind of beat? And then we see Team W. Oh, okay. And he's like, Team W ranked 237. Ah. Why is Team X over there? What's going on? Uh-huh. He told... Oh, okay. Yes, okay. There we go. He said, hello there, diamonds in the rough. He told all of them the same thing. Okay, well, this makes a lot more sense now. I was like, wait a minute, what? Again, it does make the series a lot shorter because there's still 5 teams. So basically, he told all of the buildings that they were the bottom of the barrel. Ah, okay. So we still have 25 times 5, right? We still have that going on, which is essentially 125 players left. Is that correct? Right? So we just have 125 players left to go. Right? That's all that's in the room. Is that how this went down? Hello, diamonds in the rough. Good work on your physical conditioning. If you're astute, you might have already noticed. There are no players from buildings 1, 2, 3, or 4 here. Because only building 5 exists in Blue Lock. Imagine you all believed you were at the very bottom of the pile and battled through the first selection filled with stupid desperation. Uh-huh. Yep. And they're like, seriously, screw you! But there's still 125 people in the room, right? It was a ruse to destroy your half-baked confidence and give you the hunger to become the best in the world. Uh-huh. And like, what the hell, man? And he's like, you all are bakas. I'm calling those sentiments half-baked. So there are 125 of them in the room, right? So basically, wow. So basically, they all thought that they were going to compete against other buildings, but no, it's just 125 of them left. Okay. All right. And so then he uses Noah as an example. I like that Ego. It's very interesting to see a sports anime team kind of call out the flaws of its own, like, nation in terms of sports. Because, and you'll have to excuse my dogs. No, you're fine. But I like that he's like, look, these other countries have players that literally have nothing. They're from the slums. They have nothing going on. Soccer is their only ticket out of poverty and, like, having nowhere to go in life. He's like, we all are sitting comfortably in Japan without that problem. So that sense of desperation isn't there because we're not, losing means nothing to us. And it's like, oh, that is a message I did not think Ego was going to go to it, but I kind of like that he addresses that, right? He's like, strikers are all hungry for goals because it affects their life. Losing for you all does not affect you. But that's why Blue Lock is here. So yeah, you were all wanting to kick the butts of those ranked above you, believing you could win, am I right? Yep. And that hunger will become the ego that changes the world. So we have everybody up there. Interesting. And then I like that Isagi, what I like about Isagi's character is that, like, a lot of people are like, screw you, Ego. And Isagi's like, I just want to prove myself. Like, Isagi doesn't really have any ill will against Ego, which is interesting. So yeah, and he's like, all right, we'll begin the second selection now. And it's all, the first selection was finding out what it means to be a striker. And now, turning 0 into 1, now we're going to multiply that into 100 on this training field. So he's like, you are here. There are 5 stages. Only those who clear a stage will get to move on to the next one. So, all right. So so there's 5 parts to the second selection. Oh my God. So there are 5 stages to the second selection. Well, if we're starting out with 125 individuals, are we narrowing it down to, how are we narrowing down the 125 to whatever? So what I like about this is that everybody was going in, these 25 individuals were going in thinking they were going to like move up the ranks, building to building to building. And Ego's like, no, we're just, U-125 are all that remains. So there is no other buildings. It's just down to U-125, and we're going to whittle you down to 5 from here. Because only at the end of this, right, only 5 get to go on to the national team. Somehow. Somehow, right? I don't know. What do we do with that? Is our top 5 gonna be our 4 crew alongside Nagi? Are they gonna be our top 5? I don't know. How's this gonna go? Who knows? So what does he say here? He says those who pass the second selection will get to participate in a special training camp with the world's top players that I have handpicked. Interesting. And they're from France. They're from, I wish that I knew, national. I see Argentina on there. I want to find out what are national flags because I feel bad that geography is my worst subject. Okay, so the flags that we have here are obviously none of them are Asian flags. So what have we got here? Flags of the world. I'm just like, I need to know who's on these teams. So we have, obviously France is there. And we have, I think France is the only one that is from Europe, maybe. Because we have France, we have Argentina. Okay. What else have we got here? I'm like looking on this. We have France, we have Argentina. And then we have, oh my gosh, I feel so bad not knowing the flags and where they are from. I want to know National Soccer League. Okay. Maybe this will help me get a good idea of who are the best soccer teams, the best of the best, perhaps. Would be good to know. Oh wait, one of them's Brazil. Yeah, the green flag is Brazil. There we go. I was like, I knew that we had, there were the teams. Oh my God. So there's, I feel so bad not knowing some of these. It's like, oh goodness. Yeah, Brazil, England is the white cross. Okay. So there we go. So we have England, we have France, we have Argentina, we have, or is it Uruguay? Is it Uruguay with the sun? It might be Uruguay with the sun. There's Brazil, there's Uruguay, there's France, there's England, and then there's Spain. Okay, there we go. So Uruguay, Spain, Brazil, England, and France. That's where the players are from. Good. I feel better now. So that's basically, but the question is how many get to go on to this past the second selection? That's the question. How many get to go? But you have to go through one at a time. He's like, the difficulty spike from the first selection to the next is huge. And he's like, if you thought that you survived the last round because you got lucky with teammates, then prepare yourself. We're going to sort out the trash and only the true egoists will remain. The ones that I'm worried about not making it through this next selection, the ones I'm worried about are Imamura, Inagashi, Becky with the good hair. I'm worried about them not making it through the next selection. They were kind of my bottom 3 because we've not seen Imamura or Naruhaya do practically anything. And Igarashi did the head thing, but I'm like, eh. Those 3 I could see getting cut from this selection for sure. I really would like Kon to make it. I want Kon to make it and prove themselves. I would like Raichi to make it. Obviously, our top 3 of the harem. And then I would like Lemon to make it too. I would like Lemon to get through and do it, but Lemon might be out. Don't know. I would like Gin to make it through because Gin's proven themselves to be useful. So of our 11, I think Isagi, I think Bachira, I think Kunigami, I think Chigiri. Those 4 I'm like for sure in. I think the next cut would be Raichi. I think they'll get through. Gin, Raichi and Gin and Kon. I think that those 7 are probably going to be like the ones that definitely make it through. I would love for Lemon to make it as well, but I don't know. I don't know about Lemon. And Igarashi, I don't know about them. And then Imamura and Naruhaya. I know Naruhaya and Gin are like a pair, but these 4 here on the bottom, because we have like these 7 and these 4. I think the 4 on the bottom, I'm like, I see them getting cut, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I definitely think that Raichi and Gin and Cone will maybe make it with the other 4 and those 7, but these 4, unless Lemon makes it through, I think they're going to get cut. I just do. We haven't seen a lot out of Imamura and Naruhaya in this, so who knows? And he's like, everyone's hanging back. No one knows who to go first. And then we have this person that steps up. I want to see what did their said Team V number 22. So wait, were they in Team V with Nagi and them and we just didn't see it? What? Or were they on Team V for another team? And he's like, oh, he's going. So was he the Team V of their building? And then he has this beautiful... So is that Seo's brother? Right? He has this beautiful kick. And he has this beautiful, graceful arch. Uh-huh. Yeah. Who is this person? And it like he kicks and knocks his own ball off. Uh-huh. I mean, he has beautiful hair and beautiful eye colors. So, of course, he's amazing and he's a standout. I mean... But yeah, he's like, open the door. I'm done with my warm-up. Mm-hmm. So then we have challenger Itoshi Rin. Itoshi Rin. Or Rin. And Itoshi Sai is part of the best 11. They have the same eyes. Oh my god. So Sai and Rin, they're brothers. Oh, interesting. And Sai is the one that's been kind of disillusioned. And we saw him before. He's the one that's disillusioned and doesn't really understand, like, what's the point of playing with Japanese soccer, blah, blah, blah. I'm so curious because now I'm like, is Rin going to be the brother to be, like, showing his big bro, like, what soccer's all about? And that Japanese soccer can be better than the other countries? I want brotherly competition. I want Sai and Rin. I want to know about their dynamic. I'm so excited. Yes, please. That's Itoshi Sai, isn't it? They're like, yeah, then who the hell is this guy? Also, did not know that Becky with the good hair had earrings. When was this? Okay, and we see behind them these other players that are in the shadows. Is this place swarming with monsters like him? Yes, and they're in the shadows behind Cone and Lemon. Of course they are. All right. And they're like, no, look, we managed to make it past Team V. We got this team. I like they do this cheesy little group huddle. And they're like, we got it, guys. We'll see each other on the other side. I don't know. I am so curious to see what this second stage is like. And there's 5 stages to the second stage. It's just like getting into Inception levels, y'all. The fudge. But, all right. I'm up for it. I'm so curious and so excited to see what happens, but we're going to find out. And then the additional time is them all just playing rock, paper, scissors to see who goes in next. Here's the thing. And then obviously Inagashi is not good at an ego imitation. So the one that goes next is Chigiri. Chigiri goes next. And then who do we have after that? Then we have Bachira and Kunigami. Right? Then we have Imamura. So I guess you can't really make a judgment of who's going next out of this because Raichi's last. All right. And then we see where we go to. So, y'all, I am so hyped and so curious to see what happens next, but we'll just have to wait and see. So, I hope you all enjoyed this reaction discussion. I'm really curious to know your thoughts down below. Please, no spoilers. But yeah, I'm going to be so excited to start out next episode and see what we get. So, in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, let's get this second selection started next week with episode 12 of Blue Lock. Bye!